Welcome aboard, folks. I'm Stephen Malkowich, your captain on this adventure called Ship of Fools. I'm a fool. Lucky for you, I'm not sailing solo. Join me and a boatload of people, all just trying to make sense of this crazy world. It's a fabulous mess, and you're invited. Welcome to Ship of Fools, where wit meets wisdom. I would like to welcome Simon King.
Hello.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me here.
You are a working comedian in Canada.
Knock wood, working. But yes, I am. I'm a working comedian in Canada.
Simon, I'm going to read this here because I couldn't memorize it.
Sure.
You're so stupid.
No.
But Simon, you're a veteran, internationally touring comic known for rapid fire, politically and socially aware, beautifully unhinged stand-up, thousands of shows, festivals, TV albums, and a special as good as or better than. Now,
sold. That sounds great.
There you go.
Who wrote that? That's pretty cool.
You should,
I should pay them.
That's right. And so, one of the things that initially attracted me to you was that you were playing in Swift Current, Saskatchewan.
Now, let's not brag for the people.
I know the people. That's a show off thing here, but I was very interested because we do own a weekly newspaper there, and having been there a couple of times and having driven through there, and had the luxury of touring through Saskatchewan, and just as an aside comment, when I grew up in Manitoba, we used to call Saskatchewan. People from Saskatchewan Gappers, because that was the gap between Manitoba and Alberta.
Oh,
so you can keep that. You claim that. You can use that if you like.
I would say Saskatchewan's a really good place if you're in a helicopter with engine problems.
That's good.
Lots of places to put down.
That's great. Okay, so Simon, I'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, where you grew up, how you ended up out here on the West Coast, the left coast, so to speak, and how you are an actual working comedian. So I'm just going to shut up and listen to you for a while here. But let's start, where you were born.
I was born in Sheffield, in the north of England, in Yorkshire. So I was born in a town called Sheffield, and I grew up there until I was about 5, and then we moved to Canada, to just outside of Vancouver. And so I come from a showbiz family. So my parents were, my dad was a piano prodigy kid. What in the old days we used to call eccentric, and what these days we call autistic. And he was one of those guys who could hear a piece of music one time and was like, my dad's a computer, and he has no feelings. So very old school English. So we moved to, and my mom met my dad, and my mom's an actor, and then they formed a band in the late 60s. Early 70s, and they toured all over the U.S. bases doing USO type stuff, but not USO officially, but that kind of thing, during the Vietnam War. And then after the war, my brother came along, and then I came along shortly afterwards, and then they decided England at that time was not good. So they're like, let's move to Canada. It was either Canada or Tasmania. There was two choices. So it could have been like this, but I'm not. Anyways, so we moved here, and when I was 7 years old, I did my first ever live theater play because my mom was teaching drama at the time. And then I just kind of grew up in that. And I dropped out of school at 16 and became a full-time entertainer, pretty much, like on and off. So I did film, TV, and all that stuff. Nothing that you'd know. And it's nothing that they kept me in. A lot of CBC stuff that's in the archives. And then I found stand-up in 2000, February 8th, 2000. So coming up on 26 years. And I did my first set, and then I was like, well, this is what I do. And then since then, I did it for like 6 months, and then I basically quit for like a year and a half because I had one of those pesky grown-up jobs. And then I got rid of that thing. Poof. And I went full-time stand-up. And and I've been doing it ever since. So I've been kind of full-time professional stand-up, no clock punching job since 2002. And mostly in Canada, and then I started doing stuff in the States, and then went back to England for some trips, and then in 2015 moved to England for a year just to do some shows there. Really enjoyed it, did some shows on the continent and stuff, and so kind of opened that market up. And now I'm back here. And then, you know, still touring, still putting out specials, still producing stuff and everything. But yeah, it's a very marathon type career. A lot of stand-up comedy these days, people kind of go for that viral hit, you know, and they try and get like very successful very quickly, but it's not really how it worked for me, at least.
It's a grind, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be a grind.
It is. It's a lot of work. And it's so funny how like a lot of comics, like, because I started comedy at kind of its lowest point for stand-up, which was 2000. So the comedy boom of the 80s had happened. That flattened out because there was no more need to launder cocaine money, which is what comedy clubs were in the 80s. Most people don't realize that. But cocaine in the 80s was totally money laundering. The comedy in the 80s was money laundering for cocaine. And so, and then the 90s comedy boom kind of came back a little bit. I mean, it didn't really take as much. And then when I started, the whole development deal system of like people used to get sitcoms and stuff like that didn't really work the same way. And so it was kind of like you were basically doing comedy just to be a comedian. There was no point, especially in Canada. You know, we don't have a huge entertainment industry up here in the way they do in the States.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like I started comedy in this kind of like plodding kind of not a lot of options, a lot of mouths to feed, not a lot going on. And I've seen it turn into what it is now, which has major pluses and major minuses. You know, like the pluses it has now are you can directly reach your audience. You can communicate with them through podcasts, through, you know, social media, all that great stuff. And it's allowed me to build a fan base I never would have had probably without this. But it's created a lot of white noise. There's a lot going on and comedy's become quite polarizing because it's a very entry level, like anyone can just try it.
Yeah.
And so the standards can be quite suspect in terms of who, and especially with like what can get successful and what can become quite popular. It's a different landscape than it used to be. Comedy's become much more fractured. Not all of it negative, but it's definitely different than when I started. And that's in the 26 years I've been doing it.
So in the last, I'll say the last 8 or 9 years, there's no lack of material. That's for sure.
No. Not for someone like me.
Yeah, like there's no lack of material. But we haven't had like I forgive me because I am a big comedy fan. But I have never been to a comedy show in Vancouver. We live out in White Rock, South Surrey. I've been tempted a couple of times, but I grew up on it. I grew up in Yuck Yucks in Winnipeg, falling down the stairs. I can't even remember what there was another comedy club, but that was
Laugh Resort.
It was like a dinner club kind of thing, but it was, I remember I had a friend got thrown out. He was 6'8". He was taken on the comedian, but it was a really different vibe then.
Yeah.
About live comedy.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, you know, it dissipated in my mind. Okay. And maybe I'm showing my age here. And I remember, I think we went and saw some black guy he was on the wheel of, on one of those game shows on Family Feud now or something. I remember him. He was a comedian. It was like
Harvey?
Yeah. He was a comedian, right?
Yeah. The original Kings of Comedy, 99, 2000.
Yeah. But we're talking way before then when he was humping it.
Yeah.
Like in these, like coming to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
There's a comedy friend of mine who has a whole bit about getting stuck because the comedy condo they keep you in Winnipeg, they keep you for 2 weeks. And it used to be, not anymore, but it used to be across from an old folks home.
I just remembered it was called Rumors.
Rumors, there you go. Yeah. So, and he's like, after the first week, you just start going insane because you're just in Winnipeg.
Yeah, you're in Winnipeg.
He was like, you just order a pizza for someone to talk to, you know?
Like in the wintertime, I grew up in my mother used to take me to, she was trying to culture me, get me, you know, stuck. And everyone in our family had to learn how to play piano. And I hated it. Like, and it was so bad when I was, you know, I thought she used to have to put the timer on the stove for her practice. And when she would leave the room, I'd run into the kitchen and crank it up like 10 minutes or 20 minutes and she wouldn't notice. It was like a hateful relationship with this old spinster that used to teach me piano. But my long way of saying my mother took me to see Liberace.
Oh, yeah.
And for anybody that's listening or watching, Liberace was the shit. Mm-hmm. He was. Yeah. He drove out in his Rolls Royce on the stage.
Fancy.
It was just...
He had a Rolls Royce on the stage?
Yeah.
Where? Like at the Royal Theatre or whatever?
Yeah, no, it was right downtown. It was whatever the hell, I don't know what the hell it was called. It was so long ago. But we used to go see live. She used to take me to see theater too.
Yeah.
And there used to be big name actors would come in the winter months with the Manitoba Theatre Centre. Mm-hmm. And they would do a production of Hamlet or whatever. And I can only imagine what some big name, and I remember, and I don't never say his name right, Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves? Keanu Reeves. Yeah. See, I can't say his name right. That means I'm from Winnipeg. But he came and he did 12 weeks of Hamlet. And I'm going, wow. Jesus, man. Like, what?
That's a lot.
And serious. But we used to get, actors. Like, I remember the guy who... Jack Klugman, who was Quincy on the show. Okay? He came and he did the same thing. He did The Odd Couple.
Oh, I was going to say Hamlet.
No, he did The Odd Couple. And he was whatever Oscar was in The Odd Couple, and dating myself here. But that's how insane.
It sounds like a sitcom, just having these famous actors come to town and do like a few weeks. It's a real Waiting for Guffman type situation.
And it was in January when it was the coldest. And, the only place colder than there is Fairbanks, Alaska. And I've been there. Actually watched a YouTube video a couple of nights ago about the guy was in Fairbanks. I'm showing my wife, see, this is what I thought of, because I'm like tough.
Yeah.
And I was up at Fairbanks and we were looking at buying the daily newspaper there.
Yeah.
And all I had to do was walk across this 4-lane highway to the grocery store from the, whatever the hell I was staying in, the Holiday Inn Express or whatever. And I'm wearing, I'm not dressed properly.
Yeah.
And that's number 2, because number 1, I didn't even know there was a time change.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. I thought something's wrong with my watch when I landed there.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is a time change when you go to Alaska. I did not know that. It's 1 hour.
1 hour.
And I thought I was going insane. It took me about 45 minutes in the airport to figure out. Going, Jesus, and I pride myself on geography.
They just look, he's like,
are you idiot? And so anyway, I'm going to walk across the street, and the girl at the front desk says, she goes, you're not going to go like that. And I've got Chelsea black boots on, and my kind of rainish coat from Vancouver.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, well, how cold could it get? How cold can it be? Well, holy shit.
Yeah.
I made it across the highway, and every car in the parking lot was running.
Yeah.
And by the time I got into the vestibule, I guess as you call it, which you get in the first layer into the store, I thought my hands were going to fall off.
Yeah.
And then I bought what I had to buy, and then I got my nerve up, and I ran back across, and the girl was looking at me going, "You're an idiot."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Holy shit!" I just about died there.
I've done the same thing. I did it actually in Winnipeg one time. I was there. It was the coldest of the cold snaps, and I left the hotel in the morning, and I was going to said to the guy picking me up because we were doing a road gig. I go, "I'll just go to the mall. Just meet me at the mall. I got some work to do. I'll grab coffee or whatever." And I'm wearing Chuck Taylors and like jeans. I'm like, I'll be fine. Yeah. And I was I came on the wrong side of the mall and I couldn't get in. And I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die on the street downtown.
Well, and right downtown, like you go underground. That's why they had
I didn't do the underground because I thought, I'll just be quicker. And I always get lost down there. And I can't, because I've done the Winnipeg Comedy Festival many times and I really enjoy it. They have a great comedy scene there, actually. But every time I go there, I end up, because we stay downtown at the Hilton or whatever it is, right on top of it. And every time we go there, I get lost in the catacombs. I can't figure out where I am. I don't know what's going on. It's so easy to trap me. I realize, you think you're doing okay in life, and then you're just like, all you got to do is go down here and try to find a coffee shop, and they'll never see you again. I wouldn't have made it. No way.
It's true, though.
I think there's Winnipeggers still walking around down there.
It could be.
I'm going to call in sick for work because you can't find it.
It could very well be.
I can't come in.
So you're grinding it out, and how have you, because of the situation that we find ourselves in, politically, are you finding your audiences more sensitive?
No, I think so. So I get asked this quite a bit because, particularly because of the kind of comedy I do, and I'm quite for people who don't know, who haven't read that glowing that I didn't exist.
ChatGPT put together for you.
I'm quite dark and very political and social, and But I've been doing it a very long time. So like people always talk about like nowadays they go, oh, you used to be able to say whatever you want. I was like, actually, the further back you go, according to George Carlin's mugshot, you couldn't. In fact, legally you couldn't. They would take you to court. That's what being like, not having free speech is, that kind of thing. That's not what we deal with now. What we deal with now is exactly the same thing we always had, which is accountability to your audience, right? Like audiences aren't stupid. They can figure out intent and context most of them. Some of them can't. I mean, there's always going to be people who are looking for a reason to be annoyed. You can't think about those people. It's a very small portion of the population. I have never not said whatever I want on stage, ever. But I also understand there are consequences to the actions of saying anything or doing anything. You can only control what you say, not what people hear. And once you go into it thinking about it like that, being like, I know why I'm saying this. I never say anything I don't believe or can't defend. I have made mistakes in the past not being able to get the message across as well as I want, but that's on me. That's not on the audience. Now, was there, and in this day and age of social media, is there more of an upswell of people looking to find identity in outrage? Probably, yeah, because you can actually get this kind of identity of being like, I don't like this thing. And everyone jumps on and goes, I don't like it either. And then you feel real good because you're part of a team. But that's always existed. Yeah. It's just that it wasn't, you used to have to do that at a bar. You used to have to set it on you. Yeah, it's nothing new. I mean, it's the same thing as sports teams and religion and music and everything. Nothing's ever changed there. So from a comedian's point of view, this idea of being canceled, I find that the people that complain about being canceled the most are the comedians that just aren't really doing very good stuff. And it's like, even in cases of someone like Dave Chappelle, who, not my cup of tea, but many can argue is one of the most, is definitely one of the most famous comedians. When you complain about being canceled while you're grabbing an Emmy, that's not really, or a Grammy, that's not really being canceled. Yeah. What you're complaining about is that not everyone agrees with everything I say and takes it as gospel. That's what our job is. Mm-hmm. If everybody liked everything I did all the time, I would not be doing my job properly.
Do people know, though, when they're coming? And I use, because I'm going to correct myself. The last show I did see, I saw Bill Burr. Mm-hmm. And my daughter bought me the tickets to go see Bill Burr. And I do remember waiting in line with her to get into the second show, and the attendants coming out in the line and going, just a warning. Yeah. Mr. Burr is going to say some things that could be considered misogynist and using all these words. And I'm looking at my daughter going, fuck, I hope so. Yeah. That's why we're here. Yeah. So do you have a lot of audience coming in just because you're a comic and they have no idea what they're going to get?
This is one of the reasons I pulled myself out of comedy clubs. So many, many years ago, you start out doing comedy clubs. That's the way you survive. There's two reasons to pull myself out of comedy clubs. One, self-determination and control of my career and helping build a fan base. Those are really important things. So I can go into a place. I'd rather play 50 people that want to be there than 500 that don't know what they're getting, who came in for a chicken wing special and get me. Yeah. That's not what you want. That's not going to help me, because you can only grow as big as your fish tank, right? Yeah. And if I have to behave myself, bite my tongue, and only do 40 minutes on a late show on a Saturday, it's not going to do me any good. And it's not the audience's fault. They came to see comedy, this amorphous sort of idea of what comedy might be. And I'm creating something that's different from that, in sense of like, I'm not trying to be overall appealing. I spent a lot of my career trying to make everyone laugh all the time. And then I realized I was the least happy person in the room, because I wasn't saying what I wanted to say. So I'm like, what if I could take this skill set that I've developed to make people laugh all the time and then do it with the subject matter that I want? And it's not that I don't want to be entertaining. It's not that I want to be one of those guys who pontificates and has one laugh every 5 minutes. That's not what I do. It still has to be 90% funny. But I definitely, like my last hour that I did is very dark, because I experienced a lot of loss and I talked about a lot of things like that. And that can be stuff that can set people off. You shouldn't talk about suicide. Well, I talk about it so that I don't do it. You shouldn't talk about death. I talk about that because I lost 15 people in the last 5 years. So these are things that I'm allowed to talk about. You shouldn't talk about politics. Why? I'm part of the system, So if people don't want to see that sort of thing, they have to, it's not 2001. You can look people up. If someone's coming to your local comedy club, you look them up. Look them up before you buy a ticket. Don't walk in. You don't walk into every store that's open. Yo, what's in here? Oh, footstools. Yeah. I don't want a footstool. Fuck this place. Just don't go into the footstool store. You know what I mean? It's just like that. It's like, I came in here for a comb. We'll go to the comb store.
You need to talk to my sister, because this is exactly. Yeah. We went to see this comedian at the hotel for area. It was so horrible. And I'll go, come here.
Yeah.
I'm going to smack, you know.
And to me, it's that thing of there is responsibility. The onus is on you to figure out what the hell you're buying. Like, you can't just go and buy, I just saw a bag of chips. I didn't even read what it was. And I ate it. I don't like it.
It's
Carson, it's a
yeah.
bag of chips. Yeah. It says on it ketchup. If you don't like ketchup chips, don't buy ketchup chips. It's on you. So there is a little more responsibility in the audience in that sense. There is a responsibility for comedians to try and make themselves accessible and funny as much as they can. So I realized that, like, I wasn't able to do. I was standing on stage in a club in Calgary, like 12 years ago or something. And before I'd gone on, and it was this big club. It was like seats 300 per show, 350 or whatever, and it had been full every show. Not for me, just in general. And then before I went on, one of the door people said, they're like, "Oh, over the week, there's probably been about 100 people that came to see you." And I was like, "Oh, that's nice." But then I was like, "But I can't do the show I want for them because I'm having to do a show that's kind of thinned out for, you know." No, it's not like I'm getting up there and I'm like, you know, inciting riots and everything, but I'm definitely, there's certain topics that I can't talk about to the gen. It's just too much. And it's not their fault. Like I said, they didn't know what they were getting. I mean, that's on them for not knowing. But if I'm hired to do comedy and they didn't come to see Simon King, they came to see comedy, I have to color inside those lines because I'm employed by the club, right? Mm-hmm. So I was standing on stage and I was like, all these people are here. And that means people have come to see me. First of all, those people paid $20 a ticket, and like, I'm not even getting paid for the amount of people who came to see me. So that doesn't make sense. And second of all, this club's full the whole time. So I'm making less than the bar staff, and I'm headlining this club. That makes sense to me. Right there, just doing the math, I'm like, well, this is stupid. I could be doing this. And the second thing, I was like, and then the people that did come to see me, they didn't get the show out of me that they deserved. Mm-hmm. They're fans. They're loyal fans. I don't have a lot of fans, but I have great fans, and they deserve what I can do for them. So then I was like, how do I do this? So I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing like rock clubs and bars. And there's an incredible comedian named Doug Stanhope, who for my money is the best ever, period, hands down, just because of his body of work and what he does and how he does it. And he is what you could define as a punk rock comic. He does not do things mainstream. Never done late night TV. He has had some success on television and stuff, but he is a dyed in the wool. This is what I say. If you don't like it, that's fine, but it's not. I'm not going to change it. Mm-hmm. And he kind of did the same thing. He pulled himself out of clubs years and years ago. Comedy clubs like 25 years ago, whatever, to start playing rock bars and stuff because he realized that a small, dedicated fan base will help you grow as a comedian. And that's what I wanted to do. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to make an effort to try and build a social media following, or at least do what I do. And I've had this like little weird underground following. So, I mean, I think I've headlined an actual comedy club once in the last, that wasn't my show. I wasn't doing myself. I think I've headlined once in the last 10 years, maybe. Mm-hmm. I've done a comedy club. I don't do them very much. So when I go to places like Swiftcurrent or something like that, I'll play like a pub or a rock bar or something like that. I would rather do comedy standing on the floor of a brewery, you know, with people gathered around my feet, than in a comedy club full of people who didn't know what they were getting. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't do me any good. And economically, it's more logical. As a comedian, I can do fewer shows and make more money. And I can grow, like I've started moving to theaters and things like that, which I don't even particularly like doing soft seat theaters. I really like rock bars. I like pubs and bars and stuff. That's what I like. It fits my ethos very well.
And we touched a little bit about material. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that that continue to happen. But it's not, you know, we could pin it on one person, you know, politically speaking, but that shit's always existed. Mm-hmm. And it's on you if you want to talk about that stuff that's happening and what your take on it is. Yeah. And before we started recording here, you were talking about right wing, left wing, and that kind of thing in the crowd. I personally, I've never really experienced a comedy show in a left-wing club or a right-wing club. I haven't, you know, but, you know, I have been to Texas. I've been to, you know, the Dairy Queen in Sweetwater, Texas is a lot different than the Dairy Queen in Morden, Manitoba. Yeah. You know, but having said, so one of the things that's a roundabout way is that you have to be cognizant, or you saying that you're not cognizant to the room that you're working. When you know that people that are in Swiftcurrent or in Lethbridge or you know, Pemberton or pick another town, they're coming out to see you, or are they coming out to see comedy? And
it depends. Sorry to cut you up, but that's a good point. So it depends because, like, I'm still not at the point where I'm selling everywhere out and people are coming to see me all the time. So there's still a lot of people. I always say my audience is 70% people who know me and 30% people who might not trust their friend again. Like it's that kind of thing of like, we'll go see this comedian. What the fuck was that? He was yelling so much. And it's like, yeah, but it's like I do the same set in Oklahoma that I do in Pennsylvania, that I do in Seattle, that I do in Vancouver, that I do in Los Angeles. I do the same set if I'm whatever that hour is that I'm doing. That's what I get. That's what I do. And because my thinking is like, it's very easy just to go up and go, I say this thing and I don't care if you don't like being blah. And it's like, okay, great. But what are you accomplishing there? What you should be doing is I say this thing, but you didn't think about it like that. And what I found is that like, it really works with like, I'm not going to small towns in Alberta and stuff and playing all left-wing liberal. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not echo chambering myself at all. In fact, it's the opposite reason I do that. I do it because I want to know that this stuff works with anybody who's willing to think about it. And it does. And so if you kind of look at it from that point of view of like, you have to make it accessible when you write it to as many people as possible, but still not give up your principles. That's the art in it, right? This whole idea of like, I should be able to say whatever I want. Well, you can say whatever you want, but it's up to you how many ripples, how many shores you want those ripples to hit, right? It's like you can go up, I could go up and I could play like just be super left wing and I only play left wing stuff, but that's also not how I think. My mentality is like, I'm going to say this thing, look at it from this point of view, look at it from this point of view. There are certain things that I have extreme opinions about because that's on one side or the other of my moral line. But the majority of the time, I'm like, I want to make this accessible so that maybe you didn't think about it this way, or maybe we can use humor as a delivery system for a message. And so this idea that like, what's happened is, so in 2006, 2005, Dane Cook started becoming quite successful.
Yep.
And that was due to social media. And that was the first time in my career that I'd seen that industry kind of noticed there was money to be made from people who weren't on TV. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, in comedy, you can make money from someone, because Dan had never had a TV show.
Yeah.
It was before he was in movies and stuff. So nothing. It was because before that it was like, you got Chris Rock, he'll make money. You got Carlin, he'll make money, Seinfeld. But overall, stand-up wasn't making real money. It still doesn't. I mean, Taylor Swift makes more in a weekend than the top touring comics make in a year.
Probably in an hour.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's a
sorry to correct you.
No, you're right though. You're wrong. But it's a pittance, right? It's 1% of the entertainment industry. But all of a sudden, guys are making millions of dollars, and you got comics out there making millions of bucks, and then that means agents and managers are pulling 150 grand a year out of these guys, and it's worth kind of putting an assistant on it. And then what happened was, as the landscape became more politically divided, and you can argue about, whether that was just exacerbating existing, because I mean, you can go all the way back to the neocons and Reagan for using, political division and particularly moral issues and evangelicalism. You can go all the way back to that for tribalism messaging and everything. But when you get down to like what it's become now, it's the weaponization of ideals to make money. Because that's what the genesis of all of this is. It's all money. That's all it is, right? Yeah, nobody's doing this for. There's some people who are weaponized by their ideology, but the people at the top, they could give a fuck. It doesn't matter. If all of a sudden it made more money to be super woke, they would just do that. They don't care. The whole concept of woke is bad. What is that? It's just a way to label an opposing team. And so what you see now with comedy is that comedians, it's kind of a cheat code to go really right wing. So what they'll do is they'll get up and they'll be like, they'll make, jokes about trans people in a negative way or whatever, because it's a really easy way to rally that point, because they see that ideology being weaponized, and the left is nowhere near as good at like swarm mentality and hive minding as the right. The right is very good at messaging. The right is very good at coalescing behind a message and spending their money on that. So if you want to capitalize on that, you go, I mean, look at what's happened with the Charlie Kirk type stuff with Eric Kirk. I mean, look at, you're just looking at a textbook case of capitalization on a really strong market. I mean, the whole Trump thing, it's just, it's not new. It's just refined really well. And comedians are jumping on that. So you get the Rogan Sphere and guys like that. And they do it under the pretense of like, I can't say what I want anymore because there's all these people trying to shut me down. You can, if you're any good at your job, you can do it. Yeah. You just have to be good at it. And a lot of them aren't. Yeah. And that's the thing. And then those same comedians will go to places like Saudi Arabia. And that's when the whole argument disappears.
Yes. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That whole Saudi Arabia thing, that was the ultimate one for me. I liken California to Saudi Arabia. I do, and that's an analogy because nobody would care about Saudi Arabia if there wasn't oil. Nobody would care about California if the weather wasn't so nice. Hollywood wasn't there. I'm serious.
Well, it's Mickey Mouse.
It's the entertainment industry, and because it's so laborious to try and conduct business in California.
Yeah,
and Saudi Arabia, just let women drive. So I look at it. And I go, am I the only guy that's going like? So now they're going to have so they bought their way into, they've got their own golf tour. Now so next it's a comedy.
It's the whitewashing thing, right? It's a PR thing.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting to me watching the whole, being a political hack myself and being in the business that I've been in for such a long time. I look at things and go, okay, well, when did it become okay to stone women?
Yeah, exactly.
When was that
exactly?
When did that become okay?
It's the argument too that you hear from. I mean, some comics I fully expected them to do it, and I wasn't surprised, and no one surprised. I'm like, these guys are for sale. They've been for sale the whole time.
Yeah,
there's no shock there. Other comedians like Bill, it's extremely disappointing, and because I think that you look at it in terms of. And like I said, I was not offered Saudi money.
Had you been?
Well, and that's the funny thing because I was saying to my wife, I was like, I wouldn't do it. She goes, you wouldn't do it for $1 million? I go, I couldn't do it. And she goes, $1 million. And I go, I mean, if I did it, I couldn't live with myself. So I'm still, fortunate enough to be idealistic. I mean, and that's just me, and maybe that's also me as a person. I'm not here to talk about other people's moral. Grounding what they believe or whatever. What I will say is this. Stand-up comedy in and of itself is designed, if you fashion yourself as this kind of comedian, to throw rocks at the crown on the head. Doesn't matter what the head is, what the crown is. That's what we do. Like if you're that kind of comedian. And a lot of the guys that did this, a lot of comedians did this, kind of like to pretend they're modern-day philosophers, Carlin-esque, I'm fighting the good fight. I'm speaking freely and comedy's back and then you will directly go and take money from, and they're like, well, America does bad stuff. Yes, it does. But are you directly being funded by the people doing those bad things? Because there's a very big difference between playing a rock club in Alabama, and some of the people in that audience might have been bad people, to directly taking money from people who murder women for being raped. Like, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
That is a big thing. If you murder journalists, if you're out there talking about free speech, and you're in a place where they actively, they let us say whatever they want. Great. You're a celebrity. You can go home. The people in that, there were women there. Yeah, there were women there. These are not, it's just because there were women in the audience doesn't mean there aren't slaves. Like, I was in Dubai. I did a show in Dubai, and I didn't know about the slavery issue at the time. I was not aware. And then I noticed it while I was there, and I was specifically told not to talk about it, and I fucking did. And... And I remember sleeping in the chair in my hotel room with my Canadian passport and my British passports in my hands, like just in case. Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like I got quite drunk and I got very angry, and I was like, if I'm responding like this, I couldn't imagine, and I'm just taking it from an independent producer who was just a guy touring out of the UK. It had nothing to do with the government. And even then I was like incensed. I couldn't imagine looking at your bank, like, how much money is enough money to make you do that? Because the thing about it too is the comedians that went were already successful. There was not a single comic on that list that didn't have $1 million in the bank, or very close to. So what was the purpose of this? What was the point? You're simply helping whitewash a regime. It's the difference between being like, I'm not taking sides, to I am very clearly taking sides. And that's why, for some comedians like Bill, who a lot of people, I think, looked at and were like, this guy's kind of saying the things we want about, like, fucking kill billionaires. Like, he's saying that stuff, and we're following it, and we're like, yeah, man, finally, someone with a platform and a voice is doing what they're supposed to do. You're picking up the mantle of a Carlin or a Pryor or a Dick Gregory or someone like that, and you're saying the things we want you to say, and you're standing up for people, and then all of a sudden you just let us down. And so it's the insidiousness of what that festival was, because it was very clearly millions of dollars being thrown at buying Americans and talent to come in and whitewash. But there were other comics too, like Omen Jalali and stuff. And I'm like, he posted a thing about how Iran executed a rapper for speaking anti-Iranian verses. And then he goes and performs at a place that does the same thing to journalists. I don't understand that cognitive dissonance. I don't get it. I guess that's the thing that I don't understand.
Well, it's, and I'll get on the Canadian versus U.S. kind of thing here too. And everyone's all about the money. Let's get that straight.
Yeah.
But there are some that are more about the money than others.
Yeah.
And I think in the American psyche, it's like, and I'm not saying they're all, it's pervasive throughout American society, but it is more because I've been to every state.
Yeah.
I have. And I shouldn't, they have states that are at will. And I don't know if you know what at will means. At will means you're hired at will. So I can get rid of you at any given time because I don't like the shirt that you're wearing and give you no compensation, no severance whatsoever. Yeah. Bye-bye. That's called at will.
Yeah.
As an employer, I love those states.
Yes.
It's I'll say it's a retarded law. It's a stupid law.
Yeah.
Like at will. Yeah. Like what does that mean? Yeah. Well, which I will. But there are states that are at will. Mm-hmm. But they're very litigious too. They can sue you for whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's different than Canada. Mm-hmm. I think it's different than the UK. You can't just dump somebody. But it's a fundamental thing that's there. They are, if it makes money and listen, I've never been in a position where I've had, piles and piles of money, and you never know when you're, like you say, if the Saudis would have come and offered you $5 million,
yeah, I'd be like, how's my child's future? Like, that's the last gig I'd ever have to do. I'd grow a beard, go build boats on the Sunshine Coast. You'd never hear from me again. Did you used to be a comic? I don't know what you're talking about.
That's sir, exactly. So, it's money talks and bullshit will walk. But the thing is that there's back to my point. My original point was that there's and I like to, I have a dream, like Canada.
Yeah.
And because I would, we're a cultural mosaic. We're not a melting pot like the U.S. Yeah. And that makes us unique.
It does. And I think it gives us strength.
I do believe that. Yeah. And I still do believe that to a large extent. But you're Canadian. Mm-hmm. You are Canadian. Yeah. You might be a Canadian. You can be a Canadian, whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
Hell, in Winnipeg, and I've used this reference before on this podcast. In Winnipeg, we had Folklorama.
Yeah.
And you used to go into the pavilions, and you could go to the Polish one, you could go to the Ismaili one, you could whatever, and everybody was getting, and that's kind of what I thought Canada was, and why we have a semblance of universal health care. We have certain things that we go, a single mother with a child shouldn't have to worry about, can I take my child to the doctor?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I have that, and down in the United States, that's not the question. That they don't have universal health care. They have their health care system. Like ours isn't the greatest. No. I'll say that. I will admit that
it's not the greatest, but it's. I mean, it's also. There's also different forces at play with healthcare systems. It's being purposefully mismanaged to make it look bad so that they can bring privatization. That's what they did in the UK. Yeah. That's what they do with these, because it's a huge amount of money to be made. I mean, for-profit healthcare, but it's also grossly wasteful. The American healthcare system spends more money than we do. Okay. The government spends more money on the healthcare than we do because it's administratively a nightmare. But the thing is there were something like 650,000 medical bankruptcies last year in America alone.
Hospitals going broke.
Yeah, just that's it. And we don't have that. Like I had to get some eye surgery done. Nothing major, just a torn retina. 10 minutes in the office, real quick. In the States, that would have been $8,000 or $10,000 or whatever. And I'm like, so that's $8,000 or $10,000 that I don't spend buying that car or, buying a house or whatever it would be that I don't. So it's also counterproductive to a consumer-driven economy. But it is a hugely for-profit system, because the one thing people will spend their last dollar on is not dying, usually, right? Yeah. And so it's the best, most guaranteed way to make sure people always come back to just pay. When they get to the point where they can 3D print you new organs, they'll lease them to you. They're not going to give them to you. They're not going to sell them to you. You're going to be making payments on your spleen. That's what's going to happen, because that's the best system, right? They want to. There's like that old Chris Rock bit: is they want to keep you. Like what they don't want to. They're a plumber that doesn't want to fix the pipe. They want to sell you buckets, and that's what they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I believe that with a country too, that everyone, I mean, I really love that we have so many different cultures and so many different points of view and so many different things. What we should all be trying to do is bring the best of everything to that table, including the people who were born here, including everyone else. We should all be trying to bring the best of what we have to the table. Canada does that a little better than the States, partially population issue. Yeah, we have a tenth of their population. It's easier to control a village than it is to control a city. We all know that. But also, we have not weaponized opinions the same way the United States has for monetary gain, because there's less money to be made here off that sort of thing. Canada is a very rich nation, and we have a lot of very good things. But we don't necessarily push that whole Canadian dream of like, I got to have a bigger house than the people next to me. I got to have a bigger car than the people next to me. We don't really do that. It's a lot of like, universal healthcare is a good example. It started in Saskatchewan, and it started in Saskatchewan because they needed each other. You can't be alone out there. It's too fucking cold.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, you just literally can't. And so we're so dependent on one another. Whereas in the United States, a lot of it is built on this idea of like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, self-made people. But that's a fallacy, and it's never really been true. I mean, maybe Cornelius Vanderbilt, okay, but like we're talking in the last 100 years, it's not really been a thing. But it's this sales pitch of this ideal that will make you do anything you can. And now social media has kind of given us that too. It's like, you can become a YouTuber and make $1 billion. You can get a rap single out. So you see, I mean, I see it with like, there's comedians out there that I've never heard of, and they pop up in my feed. I'm like, you have 1 million followers? Who are you? And it's like, I'm the guy who puts cheeses in my pants. And everyone's like, oh, people loving it. But the cheesy pant guy has a market. That's great. But overall, you should not be aspiring to be cheesy pant guy. You should be aspiring to like create and bring things. And I think Canadians still have that. We have a false sense of superiority over the States, which we should not have. And we should be careful of that, because we do have polarization and we do have political division. And a lot of that is, there's a lot of American and foreign money being pushed into political propaganda in the country. I've seen it. It's weird. When Americans stopped being on TikTok for like 48 hours, the amount of right-wing propaganda from Canada disappeared in my feed, which I thought was really interesting. Because I interact with it because I don't want an echo chamber. But I was like, it's interesting. Like, it's like, if you chase back all this stuff, but it's all to the end game. Why do they want to get rid of healthcare in Canada? So why do
they can make money?
So they make money.
Yeah.
And why do they want to monopolize resources? Because they make money. It's just all this thing of like, this idea of like somehow, and then it's put down to, well, you're not doing well because the government. Some guy said to me, he's like, well, our national debt. I go, why do you give a fuck about the national debt? It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you, because it doesn't affect you. The Americans have trillions of dollars of national debt, and it doesn't affect their day-to-day life because it doesn't work like that. Trickle-down economics does not work. We've been proving it. And so I think that Canadians, we have a better scope and understanding to a degree of like, maybe if we work together, we do better. Partially because like this idea of like, you know, America, the United States probably should be about 4 countries, right? It's easy.
Listen, like I use this, I say this. If there wasn't a civil war in the 1860s, if there was one now, they'd be using nukes on each other. There's actually, I think, 5 different countries there.
Probably, yeah. And the Midwest is weird.
Oh, shit, yeah. Like Texas, you sit there and you talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm actually in a cafe in Sweetwater, Texas, having lunch with the mayor, and he keeps on referring to them and us. And I'm like, whoa, cowboy. Yeah, you know, like I like, what are you talking about? Well, us is Texas, and them's the
United States. Yeah.
What century are you living in?
So weird, right?
It is, but that's the way.
Yeah.
And
you get that with the South too, and the North, like the Northeast. And it's like, I was in Louisiana, and I loved it down there. It was great. New Orleans was great, but I did feel this very definite of like, it does not feel like, you know, down the South does not feel like the rest of the states.
Have you ever been to Little Rock, Arkansas? To the airport?
No, I have not.
Well, the airport is like, are you guys all in the fucking military? Really? Because everybody's in camo gear. That's just the way they dress. You know, they dress in camouflage. I'm like, you're going hunting?
So weird.
No, you know, but
that's a cultural thing too. That's that weaponization of ideology. This idea of this like of this military culture of like, we are the strongest country. It's like, well, okay, but you got the brakes beaten off you by guys with sandals and rusty AK-47s in Toyota Hiluxes multiple times. So maybe you should calm the fuck down and realize this whole idea that's happening now with this expansionism bravado horseshit. It's like this idea of like, we're going to take this country, we're going to take that country. It's like, no, sit down. You're not going to do shit, because you can't exist like that anymore in this world. It's not 1880. You can't do that anymore. All right. The world is too interconnected, and it's too much.
I went in the Wayback Machine down the rabbit hole last night, revisiting the Iran-Contra affair.
Oh, wow. That's old school.
That's old school. Oliver North, yes. Casper Weinberg.
Oliver.
Yeah, we and did a little pop quiz with Trisha to see what her.
Oliver North. I don't remember much, but I think I
it was
like,
a good one. It was a gooder.
10.
Yeah, it was a gooder. It was a good one. And you want to delve down into there, selling weapons to Iran to fund the Contras.
Yeah.
That were fighting in Nicaragua. Yeah. Okay, like that. That one was that.
Dude, this whole. That's the funny thing is this is. I always say this about conspiracy theorists. I go. There's a lot of conspiracies that are insane that don't make any sense, like lizard people, flat earth, things like that. But the reason it works is because, like, the reason a lot of people have that is because you are being lied to. You absolutely are being lied to, 100%. And you've been being lied to for decades and decades and decades. You just have to go back to Gulf of Tonkin. You have to go back to all of this. It goes back to Woodrow Wilson, the Ministry of Propaganda or whatever, the Department of Propaganda. It's not new, but the idea that this idea of kind of like flood the system with shit, which is the Steve Bannon system, how Trump got in, right? It's just, you just throw so much at people that because people are worried about getting snow tires and getting their kids to school and paying their mortgage and doing all this stuff. And are they going to get the shift? They don't have time to think about the 50 different. And that's why now in news, too, the news cycle, you see that nothing sticks for more than 10 minutes because they're just like, they keep pushing it because it's sales. It's sales. It's sales. It's sales.
Well, we've become, and we'll date this episode will be released in a couple of weeks, but at this time there was just a shooting in Minneapolis. Okay, well, how many times have I seen that now? That shooting, and you're going, okay, looking at it. Okay, was there really somebody standing in front of the car? We're all analyzing this shit and going, she got shot.
That's all that matters. That's what matters.
She got shot.
And
I go, I'm not good with that. Like, no. I don't. And you heard the mayor of Minneapolis who had the nuts, the balls.
It was so nice to hear someone fight. And then people are like, you shouldn't use foul language. Are you fucking out of your mind?
Exactly.
Precisely. You know what the French did during the revolution? They were like, if you don't mind, if you could please leave the palace. No, they didn't. They showed up with a big sharp thing and they're like, chop, chop.
Get out of here.
Out you go. Right. And it's like they need to do that. There needs to be passion, because that's another thing we talked about earlier about messaging. Is the right, and I'm not talking, when I say the right, I mean, I'm talking about the extreme right. I'm not talking about people who are like fiscally conservative, socially liberal. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are like, fucking get them out of our country, my deal. And that's what I'm talking about. They are so good at messaging and at weaponizing that emotion and ideology, and then they froth it up. They make it into this. Every single thing that comes up in the news cycle now is like, you're either on my side or you're against me. There's no room for gray area. And to bring it back to stand-up, my whole act is, what if we just discuss the gray areas for a little bit about things? Like, why can we not just have a discussion about maybe things are nuanced and maybe things have levels, and maybe instead of treating us like cattle that have to be prodded in one direction by, the liberal media or the conservative media or whatever the hell all this messaging, which in and of itself is a nebulous concept of liberal conservative media. It's insane. Instead of just kind of always being prodded in one definite direction, what if we just took a second to look around and go, we're cows? Like, just for a second. Just for a second. Like you said, the whole point. The end game is someone who wasn't dead is now dead, and they shouldn't be.
That's right.
Let's start there instead of, well, what was that? All these people with their ideas of like, I was in the military and that angle. I mean, that definitely, he could have got out of there. It's like, how about we just have a discussion about this is wrong?
And then the next thing that came to mind is, okay, I was going color. That was right in my head. Color. Okay. Yeah. And this first thing this morning, I called my wife. She was white.
Yeah.
I'm going, makes does that somehow make it worse?
That's the thing. But that's part of it, right? So it definitely comes, and then we go back to like shootings and things. Like someone who is not white who does a shooting or something is terrorist. It's terrorist attack. It's a white dude doing a shooting is like, mentally ill. Yeah. Mentally ill. Okay, well, let's start there. Mentally ill. Are we going to fund mental health programs? Oh, no, we won't do that. But everyone should have a gun. Okay, so hold on. You just told me people are crazier than ever. Now you want to arm those people. I'm not saying nobody should have guns. I'm saying the guy who's twitching, talking about how people on the bus don't listen to his thoughts, he shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if a guy comes in and goes, I'm just saying that dog won't stop barking. All right, well, maybe you just fucking... Maybe you don't get one, Yeah. But you can't have that conversation because, like, you're either with me or against me on this topic. And it's so ridiculous, this polarization, this complete, because it serves the people, because the more the slaves fight, the more the masters feast. It's always been that way because we outnumber them 99-1. And yet we don't get together long enough to realize if the United States wanted to tomorrow, if they somehow were able to figure out a general strike, that shit shuts down in 48 hours.
Yeah.
Because the billionaires still need people to fuel their jets.
That's right.
And the soldiers, the military still need people to show up. And it's like, it's that fast. If you don't get ICE out of our city, nobody goes to work across the country. That's it.
Yeah.
And if they actually did it, I mean, look, the French do it all the time. French do it if you up their parking prices.
The farmers will burn Paris down.
Yeah, 10 euro more for muffins. I'm not paying.
You don't have to tell this. This is we went to we went to Paris, and this is when the Uber was just kind of taken off, and the taxi drivers were losing their shit.
Yeah.
In Paris, we're at the airport, and guess who I'm pointing to here? She decides that she's going to go and ask the taxi drivers where the Uber is to pick us up, and I'm pulling the bag behind her, going, I don't think that's a good idea because they were lighting fires, but the thing is they didn't attack. They told her where the Uber stand was.
Yeah, because they're not mad at you.
That's right,
and that's the whole point. Is Stanhope has this great bit about, can we just triage the problems? Can we just deal with the problems from the top down? You have a problem in the United States right now, for instance, and I'm not saying Canada doesn't have problems. I'm not saying other countries don't. But if we're just talking about the biggest, most dangerous gorilla, we got to talk about the United States. You have a problem where the president of the United States is clearly non-compos mentis. He has mental problem. He has dementia. Whatever's going on there, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. He's clearly ill. He likely won't last much longer. You are about to deal with a serious power vacuum that is going to be a real problem, because if you think the rats are fighting now, they're going to fight so much more over that. If they aren't careful, and also there are real questions to be raised about, like impropriety in election results and all these things, that need to have real oversight. They don't have any real oversight. It is at the inmates running the asylum point. On both sides, I'm not talking about people like Chuck Schumer being like, I'm going to write a letter. Oh, good, you're going to write a letter. It's like, are you out of your mind? they're
Chuck Schumer, like 95 years old.
They're ineffective. And that's the other thing, too. The average age of an American citizen, I think, is 34, and the average age of our politician is like 72. There's something wrong here. Crazy. Because, it's like, I'm 48 now, right? Like I've still hopefully got 2-3 years left. And with the way I drink. But I would still be in a position where I would care about what happens in 50 years, because I also have a child and I care.
Yeah.
But that's what a friend of mine said. He goes, but they have kids. I go, you don't understand. You don't understand how like an almost sociopathic personality works. They don't care. They don't care. And so we have to have a fundamental understanding too, is that a lot of the people that lead these countries, and George Carlin said, I wouldn't vote for anyone for president because there's someone who would want to be president.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that idea of like someone wakes up and goes, I could take care of this. It's like, that's insane.
Yes.
Like, so there needs to be accountability across the board. And the only way that happens is from the bottom up, right?
Yeah.
And we need to work together as a group and be like, okay, this is not working. The people who have put themselves in as career politicians, have put themselves in as, are running everything, are not out for the best interest. Most of them. There's a few. I think Bernie really wanted to.
I do. I agree with you.
I think Bernie tried.
Bernie the Mad Jew.
You know the best thing about Bernie is?
The Mad Jew.
Listen to his audiobooks. I love audiobooks because I drive a lot, flying stuff. And he's talking about AI and he, instead of robot, he says robot. And it is the robots will take your job. And I'm like, that's the funniest. The robots are coming and the right to work for robots. And I'm like, every time he says robots, I'm just it's like, it's the best.
And Bernie, but Bernie's got to be, what is he, 80?
81, I think.
Yeah.
And I think he really believed there was a possibility to, I think that's where a lot of it fell apart too, is clearly the two-party system doesn't work. And it's clear, because the fact that billionaires fund both sides tells you all you need to know. It doesn't matter who wins. It just matters. Yeah. It's easier and faster to steal if the Republicans win, but they still steal.
It's still the same shit.
It doesn't matter.
Same shit,
right? If it mattered, then when the Obama had a supermajority and stuff, they would have just passed universal health care. They didn't do it. Instead, they passed a near $1 trillion bailout package, and that right there tells you everything you need to know about the political system in the United States. Right. Because I was an Obama guy. I was,
I was too. I thought, hey, man, they're going to change. It's going to
live in the States, and I was so keen. I was like, it's happening. It's actually happening. And then when he got in, I was like, okay, it's a mess, because typical, it's like, well, we destroyed the economy. Let the black guy take the heat for it. So it's like a lot of that. But they were like, okay, he inherited a very, very big mess. and to a degree fix that big mess. But also, again, drone strikes, journalists going to jail, all these things. And it's like, okay, we're in the same place we were, really, slightly better. You could put him on TV. He wouldn't embarrass you, talking about whatever the fuck Trump was going on about. The other
I remember Obama with the line in the sand.
Yeah.
That speech. And like that aggravated me too. You had an opportunity to stand up for something that was right. And you didn't.
Didn't do it.
You didn't do it. And I held hope.
Me too.
I did.
I realized around 2011, I was like, fuck. It's just like, it's not going to be what I wanted it to be. And I understand that because he was young and he had a lot to lose. He had a lot on the table. And quite frankly, he had a supermajority. He was in a position where he could have done. And then he's like, I'm going to try and make deals. No, don't.
There are no deals.
They don't want to. They won't. And the fact that when he wanted to put Merrick Garland in, and Mitch McConnell was like, he's going to do an election year, and he just listened to him. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now look. So it's like
exactly. So it's. I don't disagree.
Yeah, and it's embarrassing and sad. And and in Canadian politics too, I'm very happy that we have a parliamentary system and there's methods of recall and removal and control. And instead of voting for the individual, you're voting for the party, which is good, because that means that there's options to do something. Like if they had the parliamentary system in the States right now, you could get enough people together and be like, we got to get this guy out. Yeah. It's got to stop.
Yeah.
And you could do it. But they don't. They have this weird kind of quite archaic system.
Everything that he does though is by executive order. There's nothing. It
shows his weakness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just,
and they just turned back the ACA. What's it called? The Affordable Care Act, premium assistancing or whatever it was.
Yeah.
A bunch of Republicans just went against him, and now they're going to turn back some of his vetoes. So he's in a very weak position. He's not a very strong president. Politically, he's just not in a good position. All he had was cult of personality, and it's draining. But he probably doesn't have long for this world. So the question is, who do they put in that has the magic? And I don't think Vance has it.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
And Johnson, I mean, he's ineffective and gone pretty much. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Vance will hold on to the presidency for the rest of it, and then I think he's gone. But it's not a matter of this. I hate this idea too of vote blue no matter who sort of thing. I'm like, that's not helping either. That's not doing the right thing, because that's just like Kamala Harris was, immeasurably better on paper in a lot of ways. But also, again, fool me once. I'm not saying it wouldn't be better if she was in. Of course, it would be better overall for the individuals. People wouldn't be kicked off their healthcare, all this other stuff. But is it really going to change much?
It would be the same kind of shit.
Yeah, it's not going to, because their left is our center right to right. Democrats would be considered right wing in Canada. Yeah. They really would be.
Yes.
And Poilievre would probably be considered center in the States. He's nowhere near, which is insane, but that's crazy.
I was talking about Canadian politics, though. This is the only place where you can lose your riding. You're the leader, and you're still the leader, and they give you a safe riding. And I go, yeah. We need a new leader here.
I'm all for them having a good leader. Whatever happened to a proper? But they just can't pick one.
I don't know what's going on.
They leaned into the identity politics in 2016, and that's what they wanted to go with. So with Scheer and all those guys, they're like, we need someone to polarize. They thought that base in Canada was much bigger than it is, and what happened is now, with someone like Carney. Carney is an old school conservative candidate from the 90s. He's a central
banker.
Someone actually said he's a communist. To go, he's a central banker. Doesn't get more not communist. Yeah. Carney doesn't believe in personal property. Are you out of your fucking mind? It's just but that's the thing is, people learn these words and they just throw them around like they know what they mean, and they don't know what they mean. And it's like, okay, well, now you're saying things that don't make sense, so it invalidates your argument. If you're going to call someone a Marxist and you don't know what Marxism is, I had someone the other day who was like, it's just going to be anarchy. The police will be anarchy or whatever. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? The police are anarchy? Anarchy is not chaos. Anarchy is rule from the bottom. It was labeled as chaos by Woodrow Wilson and all those guys in the Ministry of Propaganda, Department of Propaganda, to make it appear that giving people rights and control would be chaos. It's all very muddled messaging, and people don't really understand what they're saying because they get sound bites, Oh, I saw this. Oh, I believe this. Oh, MAGA thinks this. I'm MAGA. I think this. And it's like, well, did you actually watch the footage? I didn't. I watched it, and it looks like what they said, because it's too hard to think.
And it's interesting because we live in a time where you can actually, you don't have to go to the library.
No.
You really don't.
No.
If you want to find something out, you can. And you can find the truth. And like I said prior about Iran-Contra, I remembered about it, but there were some details that I had forgotten about it, and it was all right there.
Yeah.
I just hit to Wikipedia and go, okay, well, there it is. Yeah.
Which is amazing that we have that. Because I grew up with microfiche.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it.
With an angry librarian who's like, check that book out.
That's exactly it. You have to know the Dewey Decimal System.
But then that's fake news, right?
Yeah.
Because don't believe what your eyes see, believe what the party tells you, right? Yeah. So this idea of like, we've always been at war with Oceania. Well, is this like, they just believe what we tell you. Don't look into things. Don't like... The fact that after this, I mean, when this airs, obviously, it'll be a couple of weeks and we'll know more. But the fact that as soon as it happened, Trump came out and was like, she was a terrorist.
Yeah.
What?
What? Exactly. What?
What the hell is that based on? She was a poet. Is poetry terrorism? I've been to some poetry nights, but...
Yeah. No, it's true.
You know what I mean? But it's like, you can't just say a thing and then, but they're like, okay, done. It's like no wars. Trump will be the peace president. We attack Venezuela. Great. Awesome. We want that. It's like, just... have some principles, but it's too hard to think. It's too hard to put the effort in. People want the easy thing, and we've been programmed. And now ChatGPT and AI and all that stuff, it's making it even easier to not think.
Yes.
So the less we have to put in, I'm raising my kid to have very minimal screen time and really try to think. Like, because I'm like, that's going to be like, in the land of the blind, the man with an eye in the future. If you 100%. Can think about things, if you have like the ability to actively like, okay, well, let's look at something from maybe more than one point of view as opposed to what you're being fed. But this is all, this is all exactly what they want. They want you lined up on either side, and they're going to be sitting in their yachts, and they don't give a shit.
That's true. On that note, before we wrap things up, I have one question that I want to ask you. Those phone calls that I get on my cell phone indiscriminately, and there's an Asian voice on the other end of it screaming at me, and sometimes they leave a message. What are they saying?
As far as I know, because I had a friend and they speak Mandarin, and I asked, and they're like, "Oh, it's usually just sort of like your immigration status is in trouble. If you don't give us money." Then it's
Xi wants his cut.
Yeah, they need money. You gotta go. The government, the government of Canada is calling you only in Chinese to tell you that it's like I don't know what it is. What is it? I always thought it was like maybe it's some sort of sleeper agent activation thing, and I got it by accident. Like if I translate it, it's like, you must go to the embassy, and it was like, oh no, I just had like my Jason Bourne moment. I'm just like all of a sudden I'm attacking Korean embassy. I'm like, what is happening with me? It's like I didn't know. That'd be a weird way to find out. Right? You just take a phone call and all of a sudden, like 3 days later, you're on like a cargo ship heading to like Burkina Faso. You're like, what happened to my life? It's like, should have answered the call, dude. We're all just programmed from birth. It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. That's coming. The sleeper agent thing.
Simon, on that note, you're on Instagram.
I am.
At Simon. It's at Simon King.
This is Simon.
This is Simon King.
Simon King was taken by a weatherman.
Oh, okay. Jesus, that sucks. Where your schedule for shows? Where?
Well, you can find my stuff on thisissimonkking.com. That's my website, and This is Simon King pretty much across all social media. It's This is Simon King. I got a lot coming up. I'm doing like, what am I doing? I'm doing, what's Canadian, exciting. I'm doing Calgary, Canmore.
Okay.
I'm doing Abbotsford. Oh, but this will be gone by then. And then next, I'm doing, I've got Thunder Bay, I've got St. John, I've got, what else am I doing? I've got, Minneapolis. We'll wait for things to die down. And I'm going in later. I said to my buddy Wes, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't promote the show just yet. Let's just wait till you like comedy? Oh, riots. Okay. Yeah. And then so basically the dates keep coming up, and we're new specials coming out in the spring.
Great.
And that'll be I'm pretty proud of that one. It's pretty dark and it's pretty good. I filmed it actually in Vancouver, which is nice. I got to film at home. I'm looking forward to that one. So that'll be in probably April, May.
Cool. Well, listen, Simon, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming
Thanks
out.
For having me. This was great. Yeah,
look
at that. Punch it in. Come on. Yeah.
Old guys. That's right. Okay. On that note, encourage everyone to subscribe to Ship of Fools. Check it out. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on everything. Simon, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
You may be asking yourself, what's any of this got to do with me? Absolutely nothing. Until next time.